Hello, hello. No worries, Sentinel. I apologize for leaving y'all in silence for like the first 6 minutes. Somehow my Edge tab got muted, which is really confusing and silly. I don't know. But I'm here. We're here. It's book club night, y'all. I'm excited. Yes. So, as far as next book club goes, just to get this out of the way, I have a date on the calendar, but I'm still finalizing which book to do, so I will let y'all know as soon as I decide. That's why we don't use Edge. Wow, it's almost like I have a really specific reason for using Edge for stream. No, trust me, because I used to use Chrome for stream, and using Chrome for stream sucks. It's awful. Takes up too much space. No. Hate that shit. That's why we don't do it. But I will let y'all know what we're doing for next book club, basically as soon as I can sit down and actually figure that out for myself. But yeah, welcome in. We are discussing the one and only Coraline. I shouldn't say the one and only. We are discussing the novella by Neil Gaiman, which is not that... The movie is not that far off, but there are a few differences, or at least I don't remember them being in the film. Yes, the original Coraline. So the OG Coraline is actually a novella. It's not a full novel that Neil Gaiman wrote, and it took him like a bajillion years to write it, but we'll get into that in a bit. First, flip to the book club scene so y'all can see the fun banner and stuff. Oh, I was going to have a lovely co-host for this evening, but she had some offline stuff, which is obviously totally fine. We'll get her in on another one because I love having her on these. So we'll definitely get her in on one. But she texted me like 3 hours ago and was like, hey, and I'm like, that's good. You go. I'm here. My social battery is low. I want to go home and finish my... Are you still out and about, Aya? Yes, I should note. It was good things. It was just things that were happening at the exact same time as this. But yeah, no. So we're gonna be chatting about Coraline. I don't know how many of you have read it because I never think to ask who all has read it before stream. I always think to ask once I'm already live, which is maybe a mistake on my part. But just to give a general synopsis, this is technically, I think, the synopsis for the film, but it very much applies to the novella as well. So I will just, it'll be good enough. I'll fill in the blanks. So basically, while exploring her new home, a girl named Coraline discovers a secret door, behind which lies an alternate world that closely mirrors her own, but in many ways is better. She rejoices in her discovery until her other mother in the alternate universe, and the rest of her parallel family, I don't know why they said it like that when it's just her other mother and her other father, whatever, try to keep her there forever. Coraline must use all of her resources and bravery to make it back to her own family and life. I definitely read it. Yeah, totally. You definitely read it, but I definitely believe you. Are we finished setting up now? We are getting food again. We left at like 2:30. Bless. It sounds like you've had a long day, Aya. I hope you're able to chill out soon, because that shit's rough. I hate that for you. So yeah, that's kind of like the super short version of it. Navigate over here. Scroll down on my notes here. So basically, they live in this house, right? So they moved basically into a new house. And it's one of those houses where like they've split the bottom, middle, and top floor of the house into different flats. So they live in the middle flat of this house. And in the bottom, there are two older women who used to be performers of some nature. It's not super clear what kind. They have several dogs. And then there's a man upstairs who is supposedly training a mouse circus. And so she interacts with them very briefly. And then immediately you kind of figure out, like, it's summer vacation and Coraline is bored out of her fucking mind. Which is such a place to start. She's so blunt about it. She's like, both of her parents work at home, so she's like bothering her mom. Then she goes and bothers her dad. Her dad has her go and count all the like doors and windows and tiles in the house to try to give her something to do. She spends a lot of time exploring the grounds of like the house. So like there's a garden, there's a well, there's like just, you know, normal stuff you would find surrounding a house. Which is kind of the point, right? It's all, I'll get into themes later. But it's all just kind of thematic of like, this is a very normal house. This is a very normal life. Coraline is fucking bored. They go clothes shopping for her for the school year. She wants a fun thing. Her mom's like, no, fuck you, that's not practical. I kind of somehow agree with both of them in that moment, because it's like, on one hand, you should wear fun things, but on the other hand, like, there's something to be said for practicality, so like, I get that too. But yeah, oh, I skipped notes. Whoops. I should follow my notes more closely, friends. Considering this takes place in Oregon, the gloves are practical, so yes. But like, that's not what they're there for. So y'all ever go shopping, right? And you're like, I'm looking for X thing. I'm looking for boots or something. And you find something else that is practical, but it's like not what you're there for, so you don't buy it, even though like you probably would use it. That's kind of what I imagine her mom's mindset is in that moment. So just get your kid the damn gloves. Come on now. Now stab myself in the eye real fast. So, kind of what happens, I guess, is there's this moment. There's this, like, a couple of odd things just kind of creep in. And it's nothing super weird. It's something that, like, you could genuinely, if you don't know the story at all, it's something that you could genuinely think of a child imagining, right? So, like, there's a couple of, like, she's really sleepy. She sees, like, a shape moving on the floor. She's like, what the fuck? That's weird. she follows it into the drawing room where she kind of hears this, like, whispering whatever, and, like, again, what the fuck, that's weird, but, like, that could easily be a child dreaming. Like, this could be a weird dream, this could be a nightmare, she could be sleepwalking, whatever, right? So it's kind of like, okay, this is weird, but, like, potentially not that weird yet. This illusion does not work if you're me and you've grown up watching the movie and you know that stuff is in fact fucked. But in theory, you don't know that. So what's fun about that is this leads her to this other world, basically. So there's a door in their drawing room, which is essentially like the room that they store their like extra furniture in, that there is from Coraline's grandmother, I believe. So, and this door has a key, and it like opens, but it opens to a brick wall. She asks her mom about it, and her mom's like, well, there's a flat on the other side that they haven't sold yet, so they bricked it up so that we can't travel between flats like that, because that's like obviously a fucking invasion of privacy. Like, I guess it's easier to brick it up than it is to like take the door out and put in a wall. I don't know. I don't know enough about construction, so I'll throw that minor shade and then leave that be from there. But she goes through, and if you know anything about Coraline, you know that the house looks very similar, the layout's the same, but there's like, the walls are different colors, there's like it's very much a parallel world. It's similar, but it's different, right? And she, let me see if I can find description of other mother in Coraline novella, because I love the way Neil Gaiman describes her, and I'm not gonna be able to find a direct quote, and I'm not gonna be able to find it like quickly enough. I should start bookmarking stuff, but then it like slows me down really hard. Yeah, I understand. No, I know. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, in the book, the other mother is described as being similar to Coraline's mother, right? Because she's the other mother, so that makes sense. So she goes into the kitchen, she sees the other mother, and at first she thinks it is her mother. But then there's a few, like, noticeable differences that kind of... Yeah, I see your pun. I did just see that. There's a few, like, noticeable differences that make her go, oh, this is different, right? So her skin is really pale and chalky. Her fingers are like a little too long. Her nails are a little too long, and they're like almost like claws. They're bright red. Her hair is darker than her mother's and kind of always seems like it's moving in a small breeze, which is weird because that makes it feel like the hair is alive, which is really uncomfortable. And, of course, if you know Coraline, you know that the other mother has 2 black buttons sewed on instead of eyes, which is so fucking weird, by the way. So, let me see. Oh, okay. I was just making sure I grabbed the whole description from this wiki. Yes. Oh, this way I might actually keep this wiki pulled up. It's got a fun, like, here are some differences in the book and the film. That's so nice. I don't know who wrote this wiki, but I appreciate the shit out of you. That's so nice. Anyway. So that's the other mother, and the other father is kind of similar. We don't get as aggressive in a description of him, I believe. But he's kind of got that same thing of, like, he looks like her dad, but, like, he's really pale. It's It's like if you put someone into a copier, but the copier was like a little low on ink and it came out looking a little funky but still readable. That's kind of how I imagine this like this description of her parents to me. So that's kind of fun. And that's like, if you're a child, you maybe don't like immediately take alarm to that, but like when you read it as an adult, you're especially if you've, again, I was trying to read this as if I didn't know what was going to happen, even though I obviously do, because of the film. But it's one of those things of like, as an adult, you get clued in kind of quickly to the fact of like, this is probably a bad thing, right? Like this gives bad vibes, to say the least. So, I love how like frank and straightforward Coraline is. She'll literally be like, there's nothing to fucking do here, what do I do? And her mom will be like, I don't know, go entertain yourself. And she's like, but I'm bored. Child, love you. What are you doing? Oh, let's see. I'm skipping a few things. Just for the sake of time. And also for the sake of my voice. So, what's kind of fun is like, and I'm assuming this is part of it, right? Because the other mother looks like her mom. Coraline kind of just goes along with her, at least initially. Like, she kind of finds this world, and I think she's so fascinated by it that she kind of just goes along with what her other mother is saying, right? She's like, oh, come eat, and it's like the best food she's ever had. She's like, oh, what do you want to do now, Coraline? We can go do this, we can go do this, and of course she's got all this time because she's the other mother and she doesn't have to work like Coraline's actual fucking mom. So she actually, I forget exactly, curiosity outweighing self-preservation for sure. And like, let's also yes, definitely. And like, let's remember, she's a child. Like, you put really good food in front of a kid, they're not really gonna protest that hard, right? Like, they're just not. And like, she ends up going out and exploring, and she goes and sees the ladies downstairs, and they also have, so everyone in this world has the black button eyes except for one, and I'll get to that in a minute. She goes downstairs, there's a performance going on, because as I told you before, the original ladies used to be performers. So it's an endless show, and the dogs can talk, and they like help set up the stage, and they sit in the audience with Coraline. They do a fun little, she gets to be a volunteer on the stage, they like shoot an apple off of her head. Like, it's all fantastical, fun, interesting playtime universe stuff. Also, performing forever, I just can't. No. That's exhausting. That's exhausting. And there are a few moments, particularly with like that, where she's like worried about getting shot, understandably. Where like, you do see a little bit of that caution come back, where it's just kind of like, huh, that's weird. And like, she understands that she's not home, right? Like, she has a pretty strong concept of the fact that she is elsewhere. She has cool toys in her room and they all come to life, and like, that's really great, but like, it's not her bedroom. It's shaped like her bedroom, but it's different colors and it's not her bedroom. So, let's see. Sorry, I have so many notes and I'm really trying to not get lost here. So, the other mother actually addresses the idea of Coraline staying forever quite early because it's a novella. It's like, oh, you can stay here forever. You just have to let us sew these black buttons into your eyes. And of course she's like, what? No, bitch. She's like, no, I have actual parents to get back to. And like, no. Like, she's just not into it. So she actually goes home, but, oh, hold on. I missed a thing. I'm sorry. So there's a black cat in the story, and we learn, before really too much longer past this, the cat can kind of traverse between the two worlds. He obviously can't talk in the quote-unquote real world, but he can talk in the other mother's world. And he, like, is kind of a warning voice of, like, be careful. Don't let her, like, fool you. This place is weird. And it's like she listens through the rats because she has rats that are her spies, because why not? No, I love the cat. He's so snarky and it's so fucking funny. So, but basically, they offer to let her stay forever if they can sew buttons in her eyes, and she's like, no, fuck you, and she goes home. So, bleh. I can't talk. She goes home. Her parents are not there. She's like, huh, okay. She, like, makes some food, goes to bed, wakes up the next morning, they're still not there, the bed has not been slept in. They're like, okay. This goes on for a little bit. She tries to call the police because she understands that the other mother has kidnapped her parents. Which, to her credit, she's correct. But of course, like, the police just kind of assume she's had a bad dream. Which, I think my literal note is, yes, the classic, this child is actually in danger, but because it's a fantasy thing, the police don't believe her. And it's like, yes, correct. Scroll down. So she basically makes the decision. She takes the key again. And I believe the cat goes with her, or at least walks her to the door. Because she ends up... Oh no, he does go with her, I think. Yes, because he starts talking partway down the corridor. And he's like, you're... Like, he basically, like, very normally points out that she's afraid. And it's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, going back is a terrible idea. Poor Coraline has to figure out her own well-being and her family's right off the bat. She really does. There's not a lot of time before her parents get fucking kidnapped. That is not that late in the story at all. Which is wild. But he kind of asks her, like, what are you doing? Like, do you even have a plan? Like, what do you think you're doing? And she tells the story about, like, her dad and him, like, protecting her from this beehive. And something that he had said afterwards was, quote, when you're scared but you still do it anyway, that's brave, end quote. So she's basically, like, utilizing a lesson that her father taught her to be like, no, I can't leave them there, like, I have to go get them. Which is, like, very mature of her. Something that I both love and feels just a little funkalicious with her character is I think she's delightful. She's so sarcastic, she's so straightforward, she's so silly, and I love her to bits. Sometimes she sounds a little bit older than I think she actually is. But I think it's also difficult to tell a story like this without a slightly mature character like that, so I totally get it, because she has to understand what's going on enough for the reader to understand what's going on, right? So... also, I don't think this was in the original version of the book, but I bought an ebook version, and I think in a re-release of Coraline, at the beginning of every chapter, there are little illustrations, and they're fantastic, but damn if they're not unnerving. Like, they neat, but they weird. That's super weird. Super weird. I think there's definitely some room to interpret the story to fit your own experiences. I see Coraline as my inner child. Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of the beauty with most stories, right? Well, we won't say all stories, but a lot of stories is you have the ability to draw your own conclusions depending on who you are. I love the idea of Coraline being someone's inner child. I think she's a lot of fun, and I think that makes sense. I have no idea if that's what Neil Gaiman intended, because he did not say that. I do have a few notes on him talking about Coraline, so we'll get to that. I have the 10th anniversary in an earlier one. They tamed the illustrations down in the new one. Oh, interesting. So the illustrations are different in the book, in the different versions. But no, so she talked to Other mother, of course, is like waiting for her to get back. She's like, oh, you're back. Coraline's like, fuck you, give me my parents. And of course, she's like, what do you mean? I don't have your parents. Why would I have your parents? She's a fucking liar, that's why. And there's kind of this moment where, like, Coraline's being quite difficult, understandably so. And the other mother is, like, low-key annoyed with her. And the other father says something, and she's actually like, hey, shut the fuck up. Which is interesting because there's this moment of, like, it's not defiance necessarily, but it feels a bit strange. Oh, and the other mother takes the key from Coraline. So that's the other fun thing. This doorway only has one key, and it was in Coraline's house, and it's now in the other mother's house, and it's in her possession. Which is not great. Obviously. So there's a little bit where the other mother kind of just lets her exist, which is arguably dangerous and silly, but She ends up, outside for a bit again, and the other mother does not like the cat being around, which is great, and just because it makes me like him more. So she talks to the cat, because of course he can talk in this. And he's like, I don't know how the fuck you're gonna get out of this. And she's like, no, get out of it. And he's like, how, bitch? But he's talking to her, and he actually kind of clues her into the fact that the other mother likes games and challenges. And it's kind of like, okay, interesting. So we're kind of stowing that away in the back of our brains. Got it. There's another bit where she walks around away from the house. And it's like, you know when you just draw a house on a piece of paper, but you don't, like, really draw anything around it? You draw, like, maybe the lawn and a couple of trees, and you don't draw anything out from that. So it's kind of like that. The further away she gets from the house, the less detailed things are, and the less, like, the world seems to exist. And she actually walks all the way around the world where she thinks she's coming out of the fog, and she's just back at the house. Which I thought was a really neat bit. It's really cool. Let's see. They were scarier in an earlier edition, more akin to scary stories to tell in the dark. Yeah, the one we had spooky illustrations in it. Given how much I've watched the lockpicking lawyer, I'm sure Coraline could have picked it with a stick. Yeah, that wouldn't have been fun, though. Also, it depends on if she could find a good stick. But no, like, Coraline continues to be a pain in the ass to the other mother because she's like, bitch, give me my fucking parents. And of course the other mother's like, no. So she actually, as, like, punishment, places her sort of behind a mirror. So, look. Imagine if a mirror was a doorway, and on the other side of that doorway was basically an empty, small broom closet. But, like, only the other mother can open this because it's her universe, right? So she gets put in there, basically, because the other mother's like, dude, you've got to learn some manners. Just shut the fuck up. Stop it. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but, like, that's kind of the gist. And that's when Coraline meets the ghost children. Yeah. I said, you heard that right. Ghost kids. I had totally forgotten about these children until I started reading about them, and I was like, oh, right. I genuinely, like, forgot they existed. It's been a minute since I've watched the film. Spooky sad time trio, genuinely. But they kind of talk to her, and they kind of clue her in on, like, what's up with the other mother. Basically, if Coraline lets her sew buttons onto her eyes, she gets to, like, steal her soul, and then she's, like, stuck in limbo forever in this world, which is obviously horrible. Children's story, by the way. So, basically, that happens. Coraline's like, but why can't you leave? They're stuck there. It's a whole thing. They're, like, haunting, but it's big sad. So Coraline kind of takes that and pieces it together with the challenge idea that the cat gave her. And he offers a game to the other mother. She's like, hey, How about a game? A finding game. If I can find the souls of the 3 children and my parents, we all get to leave. You have to let me go. But if I lose, I will let you sew buttons into my eyes. And the other mother takes this, both because she wants that and because she likes a good game. Except for, like, we all collectively know from the beginning that she's not gonna just let Coraline win, right? Like, come on. That's some child fate stuff. But that makes sense, because Coraline's a literal child. So what's cool about that, or what ends up being cool, right, is she's like, there's this moment where Coraline realizes she has no idea what she's looking for. She doesn't know what the souls look like. She doesn't know where to look for her parents. She has no idea. Earlier in the story, when she's visiting her downstairs neighbors, they read her tea leaves because, I don't know, they can, I guess, and it says that she's in danger. And they give her a small stone with a hole in the middle. And of course she's like, okay. But she has it with her in this other world, other mother universe. OMU, whatever, I don't know. And what's cool about that is if she looks through the hole in the middle, the world goes gray and the souls of the kids will light up. A stone, a thimble, and something else. I think in novella it was just the stone, wasn't it? I'm trying to think. I thought it was just the stone in the novella. Regardless. So she gets the first soul because it's in her, it's actually in her other bedroom, basically. So the first one's relatively easy, presumably because she figured out how to find them. So then she goes to go downstairs, and the world is already, like, not quite right. Like, there were flashing neon signs outside of the downstairs, the Forever performance, and the signs are kind of fucked up, and they're not, like, saying things properly, and it's kind of strange. She goes in, and the dogs are now, like, this weird dog-bat hybrid. They're all sleeping, and the women are this, like, strange combined creature in a cocoon on the wall. Oh, I appreciate the Goodreads quote. Alright then. I don't know. Said. I also read this all in one go, so, not that I don't remember it, but, like, those little details were easy to lose when I read the whole book, the whole novella in, like, a couple hours. Also, let's be clear, the stone is, like, the only important thing on that list, so who cares? A tiny china duck sounds adorable, though. But yeah, so she has to go, and the soul is actually inside this cocoon that the creature is in that was the 2 women, or the 2 alternate universe women, I guess. And of course she pulls it out, and, like, that's super gross and creepy and crunchy, and, like, it's a cocoon. It's fucking weird. The creature tries to come out and, like, can't quite get out of the cocoon, but the bat dogs are, like, swooping down, so Coraline's like, nope, bye, bitch, I'm leaving, fuck this. So there's that. And I think... Hold on. I'm trying to remember order of events. You've read this, like, 20 times. For sure. Does she go into the other empty flat next, or is it upstairs? I think it's the other flat. So I think what it is, and Aya will shout at me if I'm wrong, hopefully. She goes out from the bottom flat, runs into other mother, and is like, I've got 2 of the souls, hey, fuck you. And her other mother is like, I forget exactly what she says, but she gives her a key. The other flat than upstairs, that's what I thought. So she gives her this key that opens the other flat that's, like, on the other side of their house, and it's empty. And she's like, well, don't you want to check everywhere to make sure you don't miss anything? And Coraline's like, fuck. Yes, give me the damn thing. So she goes up, and the cat literally is like, you know it's probably a trap, right? And she's like, yep, going anyway. So she goes in, and at this point, like, the world is progressively falling apart more and more. Like, just assume the further I get in the story, the world is, like, falling apart more and more. There's one point after the sequence I'm about to talk about where there are parts of it that feel more like a drawing. But I'll get to that in a bit. So flat's kind of normal. Flat's pretty empty. There's like nothing really here, right? Which is like weird because like you wouldn't think the other mother would like leave her unattended, first of all, but then second of all, you wouldn't think like it just feels like a fucking trap. So Coraline's almost done looking around this flat. There's nothing there, and then she discovers like kind of a trap door or like a cellar door, and she's just kind of like, what? So she goes down the stairs, which is a fucking terrible idea, by the way. And there's like this kind of cellar area, and it's like damp and dirty and gross, and it smells funny. And she sees what looks like a humanoid shape like laying down, and she's like, what the frick is this, right? So she goes up to it, and it turns out it's her other father, but he doesn't look like her dad anymore. He's a weird skin-shaped blob thing with eyes because she's not expending her power to keep him running at full capacity anymore. Because there's one point where he does talk to her one-on-one right before the game sequence starts. And I did not mean to skip this. Whoops. Where he kind of like says more than I think he's supposed to. So she puts him in the cellar as like punishment. So that way she can divert some of her power from keeping him to keeping Coraline there. And as punishment because he fucked up. So she immediately feels bad for him, which I think is fair. And like, it's a weird thing, right? Where, like, the other father technically doesn't exist without the other mother, but there is, like, some level of, like, sentience there, and you can tell he's kind of, like, miserable, and it sucks. So there's a whole bit, right? Where, like, he's, like, trying to kind of put his face back together in a more face-like shape, and, like, that doesn't super work. And as they're talking, he kind of says something to the extent of, like, she wants me to come after you. I can't, like, do anything about that. And she's like, oh, you know, maybe you can, blah, blah, blah. And I wish I'd bookmarked stuff on my Kindle, but I didn't. And trying to flip through a Kindle really quickly is, like, not possible. But there's a sequence where he just kind of goes, I can't. Like, I can't resist her. I can't not. And he just rears back and, like, roars and, like, attacks her. And she's like, holy fuck. Which is so scary. This whole sequence is really fucked up. Like, I'm talking about it really lightly, but this whole sequence is so fucked up. It's creepy. It's weird. It's, like, borderline body horror with the fact that he's this weird amalgamous blob. It's very uncomfortable. So there's one point while they're talking, or, like, towards the end of that, where, like, one of his button eyes has kind of come off, and it's like, okay, because he's like, the skin literally will not stay together, so it's having a hard time keeping the buttons on. It's just another example of, like, oh, he's falling apart. So Coraline has this moment where she's like, okay, I can either try to run and probably get fucked up, or I can do something that's probably stupid, and it might work. So when he runs at her, instead of just sprinting away, she grabs and pulls the other button off of his face. Which is obviously very upsetting for him. Because now he's blind. He can't see anything. So she is able to kind of sneak to the stairs because he runs at where she was, but she's no longer there anymore because he can't see her. And, like, I have to imagine watching this run is like some eldritch horror shit, by the way. Like, this weird flesh thing that can't quite keep a shape is chasing you through a stinky basement cellar thing. If that's nightmare fuel, I don't know what is. You'd think she'd reinforce the button eyes with an extra stitch, right? So, because at first, when he loses his first eye, I think you're supposed to kind of think that that's just kind of like, oh, he's falling apart. Like, that kind of sucks. Like, he can't stay together well enough to keep the buttons on him. And then he, like, loses his fucking mind and attacks her, and then it ends up being to her advantage. So she gets to the stairs. He hears her on the stairs because the stairs are metal or something that makes a noise. So there's this little horror movie sequence where she is sprinting up the fucking stairs and shuts the cellar, like, on his head. And I just... bruh. Also, for those who have seen the film, is that in the movie? Because I don't remember it being in the movie. I remember there's a bit of a sequence where the other father kind of, like, starts to fall apart a little bit, but I don't think it's anything like that. It's fucked up. I think it's also one of the moments that feels the most dangerous in the book. I'm not sure. Okay. That's fine. It's one of those moments where, like, they're not... Like, look. The whole book Coraline's in trouble, right? There's some sort of, like, omnipresent danger thing that is the other mother. There are not a ton of moments in the book where she is in really, like, immediate bodily harm type damage. Like... She's not in danger of, like, being physically hurt a ton outside of, like, the button eyes thing, obviously. But, like, even then, that's not, like, nobody pins her down and has a needle in their hand. Like, that, it doesn't go like that. So that's super fun. There's no souls in the flat. That was purely a trap to try to keep Coraline there, because that would have been easier for her than, you know, Coraline doing anything that Coraline wants to do. It's super fucked up. It's so cool. It's so fucked up. But it's so cool. So then after that, she's like, well, that was a trap. That sucks. And then she goes upstairs. Mouse Circus Man, I think ends up being sort of Ratman Circus-y, personally. I don't remember exactly if the terminology changed, but I remember thinking of them kind of rat-ish. He's in, like, a chair from across the room and is, like, talking, and he's like, why do you want to leave? She's like, I have to go home. And he's like, but you could play every single day. She would build worlds for you and then pull them down when you were done and build you something else. Unlark Sentinel, welcome back! You missed me talking about a fucked up sequence. Which the other father's kind of melty and tries to attack Coraline, and it's fucked. Is this book as creepy as the movie? There's stuff that did not get included in the movie that I think is arguably kind of creepier, frankly. Like, I don't think that cellar scene where the other father is falling apart is this weird, like, undulating half-person thing, like, attacks Coraline and Coraline blinds it by yanking a fucking button out of his head and then drops the cellar door on his head. I don't think that happens in the movie. I think I would remember that. I'm almost certain that that does not happen in the film. Oh, so worse. Kind of. Actually, kind of. The novella came out years ago, so if you want to look up, if anyone, Sentinel or anyone else, wants to look up Spark Notes to follow along with what I'm talking about, feel free. Excuse me. So we're having this conversation with the alternate version of the man upstairs. We see him very briefly upon Coraline's first entrance into the other world. I think it is rats, actually, in the other world. Where she gets an offer to go play with the rats, and she declines in favor of doing something else. That's not in this book a lot. I'm gonna be real. Man upstairs is not in this book much. But, so she goes up, she's talking to him, and he's really, like, trying to convince her to stay. And of course, at this point, like, there's this kind of awareness that all of this is controlled by the other mother, right? Like, where these people are not really people. Like, they're all controlled by her. So, but there's that sequence where he's kind of trying to, like, talk to her and trying to, like, convince her to stay, and it doesn't work. He kind of ends up dissolving into a pile of rats, which is fucking gross. And the soul was in his, like, rib cage. The third child's soul was in the rib cage. So she is trying to get that. One of the rats is running with it, trying to get the fuck away from her. Doesn't quite get it. She runs all the way out the house, falls, skins her knee, does all that. And then she thinks it's gone, and then lo and behold, the cat comes along and he's killed the rat and brings her the marble. Because there's a reference, or there's a moment earlier in the book where they talk about, like, cats hunting mice or cats hunting rats, and it's a fun little callback. Some of the sequences felt more dreamlike on text to me. That can be worse when you're imagining horrific stuff. See, that's the other thing. I think the other father in that cellar scene would be fucking horrific on a TV screen. I actually really do, and I kind of want it. Simultaneously, I think it's an awful thing to imagine. Because, like I said, there's one point in their conversation before he, like, really loses himself, where he's kind of trying to, like, do this to try to, like, reshape his face back into place so that, like, he can speak and be, like, a coherent, like, being. But he looks like he's made out of, like, y'all ever, like, pop a croissant can open or, like, one of those and it's just got, like, the really, like, doughy bread? Like, that's how I imagine he is. But not in a fun way. According to the notes by Neil Gaiman back in the day, he had to tone it down a couple times because his editor was like, no, I mean, look. Yeah. Yeah. No, I do have a few notes on things he said on Coraline, and he really likes the story, which is really sweet. But yeah, no, definitely, the toning down, important, yes. But, long story short, not long story short, this story is not long. She gets all three, so she's got all three of the children's souls. They're all these, like, marble pieces. But she still doesn't know where her parents are. She's like, fuck. And of course, the cat, and I think one of the soul children also says, like, she's not going to let you go. Like, she's going to cheat. Like, she swore on her right hand, but that doesn't mean shit. She's going to keep you here if she can keep you here. She does not care. And of course, Coraline's like, yeah. Like, she knows. I think there's a little bit where she's, like, not dealing with it, but, like, she knows. There's kind of this moment, right, where she's like, I wonder why in this world there's a snow globe in the drawing room. Because there's not one in my world. And there's kind of this moment where, like, she kind of realizes that, like, that's where her parents are, and she's kind of like, okay, interesting. But she is getting ready to, like, she's trying to, like, formulate all of this together. And Coraline is a child. Coraline is a literal child. But at this point, because she has all three of the children's souls, we're really in that part of the story where the world is very flat, the world is very two-dimensional. So, like, there are parts of it that only seem like they've been drawn in, and they're not, like, 3D anymore. And the cat, like, freaks the fuck out. She's like, what is wrong? And he, because of the world going flat, he loses all of his alternative ways in and out of the other world. So now the only way out is through, the door in the drawing room. Which, like, of course, right? Like, of course that's where it is. Where else would it be? So he's actually very scary, very, like, scared of this, which I think is a pretty, like, understandable reaction, because on one hand, like, something he's so accustomed to having is now just gone, and then on the other side of that, you also have, like, I now have to also go through the other mother to get back. Son of a bitch. So Coraline, picks up the cat and goes inside the house. So the house is a little bit more okay. So it's the implication, I guess, is that, like, all the power of, like, keeping everything proper looking, like, is in the house. So, like, that's fun and exciting. Oh, yeah, there's a bit where the other mother is eating beetles, and that's also super fucking gross. Just because of, like, the way it's described. Like, I know people eat bugs all the time. I'm not yucking people's yum. But, like, the way it's described is quite gross. It's, like, really crunchy, and she gets, like, an antenna stuck to her lip because she's eating beetles, and it's really gross. But anyway. That's an event that happens. It's a thing. Yep, But anyhow. So, she ends up in the house. She's talking to the other mother. They're in the drawing room. And she has this moment where, like, actually, there's two moments here that I really appreciate. One of them is she has this moment where she's like, I can't believe this thing, that I ever thought this thing looked like my mother. Because just the more she's around other mother, the more she's kind of able to pick out, like, sure, her hands have always been kind of weird, but, like, she's got buttons on her eyes, which is, again, also very obviously weird, but, like, the way that she acts is so, like, different. And, like, that's really unsettling for her in that, like, oh, the way she moves is not like my mother. Oh, the way she does this is not like my mother. Like, she just... There's some chinks in the disguise, I guess. So there's that moment where she kind of has this thing of, like, I cannot believe I ever thought that this could be my mother. She looks nothing like her. I hate this. I want to go home, which I think is just, it's just a fun little moment. I don't know. But of course she's like, oh, I know where my parents are. And the other mother's like, bitch, no you don't. What the heck? What are you talking about? So she's like, yeah, you hid them in the corridor between worlds so that way I couldn't get to them. So that way I would have to stay. Which is a smart answer, right? And it's also a plan. It's a plan of attack. So the other mother goes and actually opens the corridor and it's like, see, there's no one here. You lost. That means I get to have you forever because you couldn't find your stupid parents. Because, you know, I don't know. One guess apparently means that the game is over. What the other moment that I appreciate in this is that in order to distract the other mother so she can grab the snow globe that is in the drawing room that holds her parents, is she throws the fucking cat at the other mother's face. And it works. It's also a plan of attack. Thanks, Ethel. What the fuck was I gonna do? Hold on. Sorry, I'm just making sure. I had a thought. Sorry, my brain is all over the place. Oh, okay. Oh, we have a guest. Hello. If it maketh me chuckle, I quote. Good. I mean, I'm just rambling, so sentences are fun. But she throws the cat at the other mother's face. He, of course, like, hisses and scratches, and it's actually cool. Because there's a moment where he does, like, scratch her cheek, and this, like, black ichor comes out of it, like, it's not even proper blood. Yeah. She took the cat and just keep. Also, hello, Aussie. I see you. I got distracted by the quote, but hello, Aussie. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome into book club. So while she has thrown the cat at the other mother, which I feel so bad for the cat, she sprints over, grabs the snow globe, grabs the key, gets to the doors like, hey, come on. So then her and the cat are through the door. She's trying to pull it closed. The other mother's trying to keep it open. And of course the other mother is, like, stronger than this literal child. But, like, the souls of her parents and the souls of the children kind of, like, strengthen her, and she's able to pull the door shut. So they're sprinting through the hall. The corridor is this weird, like, sort of semi-sentient thing as well. So, like, she goes to touch the wall once, it feels almost like fur. She goes to touch it again, it feels almost like flesh. Both of them are very uncomfortable for her. She can hear, like, skittering in the corridor, and she's like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck? So she's running. She's fucking running. She's ready to be the hell out of there. Much to our relief, of course, our protagonist makes it through the corridor and back to her world, which we love to see. She locks the door with the black key. Pulled an HP and Parents Ghost versus Voldemort type deal? A little bit. Different energy, same thematic thing, except for I think this came first, probably. Because the novella's not real new. What's wild to me... So she, like, apologizes to the cat, of course. But something that's really wild to me, her parents don't remember being kidnapped. Even though they were missing for days. They don't remember shit. Which, like, I always thought was weird in the movie, too. Because they do include that detail in the film. Like... They straight up just don't remember. Like, Coraline, of course, remembers everything, but, like, they just have no idea. I presume it's, like, the answer is magic, right? Like, the answer is very obviously magic. I'm sorry, but do you know how Twitch freezes for a second sometimes as it loads the stream? Yes. Looked super high for a second. Oof, I am not high, I promise. But they're back in the world. Her parents don't remember shit. She's got, like, I think a week left of summer vacation before she has to go back to school. Sorry to interrupt. No, you're fine. So there's this sequence. So she puts the black key on a string and hangs it around her neck and wears it like a necklace. And she just keeps it with her, like, at all times. Like, she takes a shower with it on. Like, that shit stays on her body. Which, like, understandable, frankly. Yeah, just understandable. And there's this really cool dream sequence where she has this, like, picnic with all of the ghost children that are now free. So there's a little boy, there's a little girl, and there's another little girl who's actually a fairy. And I don't totally understand why she's there other than, like, neat fairies. But she's got these silver wings, and instead of eating, like, jam on toast or, like, sausage or something, she's, like, eating flowers because she's a fairy. So, like, they hang out and play, and it's kind of just this goodbye sequence for the kids. And there's this moment where she's like, oh, I'm so glad it's over. And they're kind of like, well, it's over for us. And she's like, bitch, what do you mean? Because, you know, she would like to be done with this. But they kind of allude to the part where she swore on her right hand that she would play fair. And of course, like, there's kind of, it's foreboding, we'll say. So she kind of exists like that for a few days, where, like, she realizes that the other mother's hand got removed from her when she shut the door. So the other mother's hand is in her world with her. She, like, chases it out of her house at one point. It tries to get into her bedroom, but it gets caught and it scurries off. Which is just, imagine, like, pulling back your bedroom curtain to just seeing a hand with, like, claw-like nails just... Nope. That's so much worse than, like, any spider or anything. It's so fucking creepy. Like, of course it wants the key. Like, of course it does, right? Because the other mother wants to open the corridor back up. It wants Coraline. So what she does is actually quite clever. Excuse me. She remembers the well. So what she does is she sets up a little tea party with her dolls. And her mom's like, don't you not do that anymore? And she's kind of like, yeah, I'm just, eh. Like, she comes up with some reason, and I forget exactly what she says, but it's a very Coraline answer, which I love. It was very, like, sarcastic and, like, weird and meta, and I kind of love it. But she takes the boards off the well, and she has it so that her dolls, like, are sitting on the outside of the well with their little, like, teacups, and she puts the black key very gently in the middle. And then when the hand goes to get the key, it falls into the well, and she covers the well with the boards so that it can't get out. So that's kind of fun, like, both because she's very clever, but because, like, her neighbors both comment on, like, the repercussions of that. So, like, the hand had actually injured one of the elder lady's dogs at one point, and he is okay, he's recovering, he gets to live, but they talk about that. And then there's a moment where the man upstairs had told her, like, the mice are really uneasy, they like, hear something skittering around, it's very strange. And then after the hand has been sealed in the well, he says, like, the mice tell me that you have solved your problems. Thank you. Which is, like, weird. I'd be concerned about losing the key before Operation Tea Party. I lost my mug of coffee for 5 minutes today. Yeah, I think the only, truly, genuinely, I think the only reason that doesn't happen is because she wears it around her neck 24/7. Like, there's nowhere to set it down. She can't. It's on her body. I think it's the only thing that saves her. But no, like, I think it's cool that, like, even though her parents are really oblivious to it, like, her neighbors kind of know that something has happened. Like, her downstairs neighbors read her tea leaves again, and, like, that's mostly fine. You kind of see a black thing almost in the shape of a hand before the hand shows up. There's some fun little, like, tidbits in if you know what you're looking for that I think would be really, really fun on, like, a reread. But, like, it's... So, you close the story basically after Coraline has trapped this hand in the well, right? Because the key is in the well, the hand is in the well. We're probably not going anywhere with that. I don't entirely buy that the hand is trapped down there forever. Because, like, if the implication here is that the other mother is probably some sort of, like, otherworldly something, I have a hard time, like, if her hand can operate without her, I kind of have a hard time, like, believing that it would just die. But simultaneously, like, I think the story probably is over for Coraline. I could 100% see, even though I don't think we'll get a sequel at this point, I could 100% see, oh, Coraline is grown up, Coraline has moved out of this house, but now a new family has moved into the flat on the other side, and the boards on the well have rotted away, and now the hand can get out. Like, that doesn't feel that crazy to me, right? Especially with how, like, fucking strange the rest of the book is. Like, it doesn't feel that weird to me. So, I don't know. It's kind of a fun ending in that, like, I kind of like that it's got that teensy bit of open-endedness in it. Like, it's pretty clear that, like, Coraline believes that she's done with this, and I don't not believe her, but I also don't, like, think the other mother is, like, super done with, you know, the whole, like, stealing children business. I don't think she's done just because Coraline's like, hey, fuck you. Let's see. Let me scroll back up. So, we'll go through my short list of, like... Nah, psychos are always easily dissuaded, especially supernatural psychos. Bruh. I know you're being facetious, but I'm just thinking about, like, all the fucking weirdos in Supernatural that, like, they tried to dissuade, and then no. So, we'll go into, like, a very brief list of, like, not like criticisms, but, like, necessarily questions I have. So I guess, like, biggest thing is, like, this isn't not a children's story, but this also kind of feels like it shouldn't be a children's story. Like, there's undulating weird things. There's a creature that crawls out of a weird cocoon. The other mother is like really fucking spooky. There's like rats, which like rats are not necessarily scary, but in the context of everything else, like I don't consider them a good thing. Like, this is basically a story about a demon trying to take away a child, and it's a kid's book. That's fucking wild to me. I love that, and I think it's great. But also, I think you should be careful what age you show that to your children, because holy shit. So I guess kind of piggybacking off of that, a lot of children's books have like a lesson, and I guess I'm a little hazy on what the lesson is, beyond like don't go through strange doors. My biggest thing that I guess it probably is would be like, appreciate what you have. Like, even if it's a little boring, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, which like is not wrong. I think that's a lesson most kids get at some point of like, just because it's boring doesn't mean it's a bad thing. In the sense of like life stuff. Of like, sure, you might get bored going to school every day, but like you should get to like see your friends and stuff. So, you know, I could see that being one of the lessons. I'd be curious on what he intends the lesson of the story to be, or if he even intended a lesson. Not every story is written with the assumption or the intention of having a lesson. You can draw them from pretty much anything, but that doesn't mean that was the intention either, you know what I mean? Also, I promise I'm just running through this like vaguely negative stuff so I can get to like me vamping and like talking positively, because I really enjoyed this. I don't totally understand why we have a fairy child. I love her. She's precious. I don't understand why she's a fairy. Or a fae or whatever. I think he refers to them as fairies. She's got these really cool silver wings that I think are really beautiful. And like, she's a beautiful character. She's very sweet. She's a little girl with like really pretty wings, and like they play catch in the dream sequence and she's like flying around. Like, she's great. I'm not complaining that she's there at all. I'm just a little bit confused by her presence. And maybe someone who's like a bigger fan of Neil Gaiman than I am can like help me out and see if there's a reason for that. I did read a thing where someone asked him if he believed in that kind of stuff. And he basically said, I don't want to either acknowledge them by saying they do exist or offend them by saying that they don't. So I'm not going to answer this fairy related question. So I could see it just being a nod to like that belief. It could also be a play on the changeling myth. You're very correct. Where like there was a changeling and then that's what got stolen into the other world. Like that, I could definitely see that being relevant. That's a good point. That's a good catch. And then, not necessarily a story criticism, but something that I think would have been neat. I would have really liked to have seen the other father, like, more actively trying to help Coraline. I don't think it works too well in the parameters of the story, because ultimately he's controlled by the other mother, and he's terrified of her. So, like, I don't know what context would have had to happen for him to take a more active role, as opposed to, like, him just kind of talking too much. Which I love, because I think it's fun and it actually like really helps Coraline. Just, I don't know. I kind of liked him. Or maybe I just like the movie version of him. I just thought it would be neat to like get a little bit more of him in the story, and I was kind of expecting him to be around a little bit longer. But, alright, I have way more praising bullets here. One of my favorite things with this is like the sequencing of how fucking weird it gets. So something that is done very purposely, and you can tell both like based on him talking about it in interviews and by like, or not interviews, we'll call it interviews, and by the way it's written, the building of creepiness is so fucking intentional. Like, oh, there's a little bit of movement in your bedroom. Oh, now it's in the drawing room. Oh, you heard this one voice, but like maybe you were sleepwalking. And then when you go to the other world, at first everything is really, really wonderful. And then you start to see like the cracks. You start to see like the chinks in the armor. And it's fucking horrifying. And I love this like slow build of concern and horror through it. Because I think it makes the payoff for it so much more fun. Like, I have watched this movie so many times growing up. And that was still like a fun build for me, even though I knew where we were going. And I think that says a lot both to how good of a writer Gaiman is and also like how well paced the story is. So I mentioned this earlier. I love how like frank and upfront Coraline is, because like she gives her mother shit, she gives her dad shit, and then she's a really great, like, well-behaved kid for the other mother at first, and then the minute she finds out that this bitch has taken her parents, she's just like, hey, give me my fucking parents or else. And it's like, oh, I don't know, what is it? Fuck. Sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. I was like, oh, I don't know, like, what do you mean? Like, we don't have your parents. Why would we have your parents? That would be fucking silly, right? Why would we do that? And she even shows this illusion where she tries to make it look like Coraline's parents have, like, forgotten about her, like, have abandoned her. And Coraline doesn't believe it, which is really smart. Love that for her. But, so that's really cool because you really get to see how, like, persistent Coraline is, and that she just absolutely will not give up this line of questioning. She will not fucking drop it at all. Much to the annoyance of the other mother. But no, I love how, like, frank and straightforward she is, and I think she channels a lot of that into trying to be brave and, like, doing the correct thing and, like, trying to save her parents. Because I think, like, being honest is, like, a character trait for her, and I think it really fuels her. Yeah, no, my other bullet here is, like, Coraline is also brave as fuck. The other mother is a scary lady. Because she fucking is. Like, she eats bugs and, like, constructed this whole world to keep her there. Wants to put buttons in her eyes and, like, chases her through the house at one point. Like, or not chases her through the house, but, like, chases her through, tries to chase her through the corridor. And, like, that's a straight up horror sequence. That's a straight up horror sequence. It's excellently done, especially for kids horror, where it's definitely not age appropriate or, like, Goosebumps. Yeah, so this is kind of going back to my thing of, like, I don't know how the fuck this is a children's book. I just don't. I have no idea how this is a children's book. I think the way he described it, I might have written it down, was it's an adventure book for children and it's a scary book for adults. Because for kids, it's just like, oh, this kid goes on this adventure and she takes down the big bad lady and she wins. And the adults, like, fully process how, like, genuinely horrifying it is. And it's like, oh no. Just, oh no, right? So, oh my god, I love, okay, hold on. I'm gonna skip around a teeny bit. So one of the fun facts that I was going to say later, but is something that I want to put under praises for a reason I'll mention in a minute. Coraline's name was originally going to be... Hello, Sentinel. Welcome back in. This is my train of thought. What are you doing? Thank you. Hi. Yeah. I love... need to put... No, I know you've been here. I just liked your... I liked your bit with the Kool-Aid man. It made me lose my train of thought, but it was funny. So the running, like, one of the running gags of the story is that, like, no, it's not how I want to tell this. Fuck. Hell yeah, Kool-Aid man. Yes. One of the things that happened when Neil Gaiman was writing the story was when he went to write the story, the main character was originally going to be named Caroline. And the reason her name ended up being Coraline is because he mistyped Caroline. And he liked it so much that he kept it. So one of the cool things about that I think he, like, kind of a fun wink to that in the story that I really love, is there's this running gag where all of her neighbors, the old man upstairs and the ladies downstairs, all think her name is Caroline. They all think her name is fucking Caroline, even though she's corrected them a few times. And the mice that the man has upstairs know that her name is Coraline, but the guy actually doesn't realize that her name is Coraline until she corrects him at the end of the book, because she talks to him after she gets rid of the hand. And another cute thing is she finally learns his name right at the end of the book, and she's so like bewildered by the fact that she didn't know his name, and I think that's just kind of fun. I literally read a children's horror book about a college kid getting killed, stalked in the haunt. I'm amazed that was available to purchase at a Scholastic book fair in the 3rd grade. Do you remember the title? Just because I'm curious. Yeah, so, but yeah, no, like, I just think that's a fun bit to, like, have her almost name kind of be her name in a way. So, and that kind of, like, sort of segues into something else that I like about it. The story really doesn't try to be anything beyond what it is. Like, we get a couple of, like, cheeky winks like that, and that's really fun. Like, Coraline is exactly who you think she is. The old ladies are kind of who you think they are. Like, the twist is that the other mother is evil, but, like, that's also not that surprising, right? So it's like, the story just really, really is, like, honest about what it is, which I think is really fun. Like, there's a really great build, but, you know, I don't know, man. I can't imagine reading Coraline and having no idea that it's going to be spooky. But, like, the story doesn't dwell on itself, right? So, like, part of the reason I think it does so well as a novella is because the story doesn't really need to be any longer than it is. It tells the story, it says what it wants to say, and then you're done. Which I don't know. I like that personally, because like there's a book series that I've read and I forget the name of it right now. So I'm also not like slandering the author. She's quite good. But something that she tends to do is her characters tend to monologue a little bit. Or like repeat things that we already know about the character. And sometimes that's helpful if it's like been a while since you've read a book. So it's like, oh, this event happened. It's like, oh, right. Thank you. So like some of that's really helpful, but some of it's like the main character kind of talking about why she is the way that she is multiple times. And like that gets a tiny bit long-winded, right? It just does. It just does. And that's not, like I said, I still read all of those, so I still don't dislike them. But all that to say, I think that is something that Gaiman does well here, in that the story does not overstay its welcome. There's no like really endless monologuing. There's no like moment where I am kind of waiting to get to the next bit. Like, I'm very content to come along for the ride on this story, and I think that says a lot for the pacing. Nightmare Hall The Silent Scream is recommended for 2nd to 3rd graders. That feels like it should not be recommended for 2nd to 3rd graders, but okie dokie, I guess. Oh. She doesn't want me to pick her up, chat. Nope. She's not having it. You're so dramatic. You're so dramatic. I thought of you. Nah, Kitty just wants attention. But no, like, I think that is, like, something to be said about Coraline. Like, I think it I don't think I'd want it to be longer than it is. I think it does a really good job of, like, telling the story and then being done. Also, I need to back up to the creepy section with the other father for like 2 seconds. That section was so concerning. It was so good. And it was so spooky, and I hated it. It was like... It both surprised me because I'm like 80% sure that that is not in the film. So like I have like no like visual remembrance of it. And it's such a like concerning, dark, like that's the scene that you read and you're like, why the fuck is this a children's book? Because that is literally a horror scene. Like that is some like Resident Evil shit in a children's book, which I love and I think is great. But also, what the fuck? Like, I cannot imagine being like, come around, my small teeny child, innocent to the world, let me read you this thing where she's a dad and a fake dad, and the fake dad turns into this weird Play-Doh bread dough thing and like literally tries to fucking kill her. So, it was just... I list that section as a praise because I think it's an excellently written section. It was super fun and I loved reading it. It's also literally insane. Like, it's also literally insane. Yeah, if you still have the book, I'd love to see it just because I'm curious who recommends this book to second and third graders. And of course, just a brief praise for the illustrations. Regardless of which version I had, they were really good. I really like them. I think they add just a teensy bit of spice to it. They're kind of creepy and unnerving, and I think that's super good. I talked about this already. I kind of like that the story feels both resolved and open-ended. In that Coraline's story feels done. It does not feel like the other mother's story is done. Where, like, if you told me there was another story of her doing this, that would not shock me. And then kind of to tangent with that, with the whole world falling apart, right? That's really cool. I keep saying that a lot, but it really is. Part of the reason I think that that is neat is because you can kind of posit a few reasons why the world is falling apart. Like, on one hand, you can say, oh, it's falling apart because the other mother is angry and she's trying to, like, freak Coraline out and keep her from progressing. And I would accept that as, like, a very reasonable version of events. I think it's also possible to think that part of the reason she's able to sustain the world is because she has the power that she draws from these kids' souls. So when she loses them, as Coraline picks them up one by one, she doesn't have as much juice to keep it running. And I think that's also, like, really neat and a potential answer. So, and it could be both. It could be she doesn't have as much juice, so she's using that to fuel, like, her ability to freak out Coraline, basically. So... get a drink real quick. Here we go. But yeah, like, it's cool. I say that a lot. But it's true. I think Gaiman likes his magic to be ancient and eternal. Coraline leaves the magic behind, but the magic is definitely not gone at the end of the story. Yes, exactly. And Aya, you added onto that perfectly. The magic is contained for now. It is totally reasonable to assume that the other mother finds a way to start doing what she does again. I think it's totally, like, plausible that some number of years from now, either the landlord goes to replace the planks on the well and the hand crawls out, or the boards on the well rot and the hand is able to slip out. And then she's able to open the door again and starts to go after more children. Like, I think it is probably likely that Coraline will not be around by then, or will be, like, off to college or something, you know. I don't think she'd necessarily go after Coraline again. But the other mother is certainly not done with what she does. As long as we're operating under the assumption that the other mother doesn't die if she can't get children. So, which is, you know, another debate in of itself, of course. So let me tell y'all some fun facts. So yeah, the name Coraline came from a misspelling of Caroline, although it is a real name and a brand of corset, apparently. We have the other mother's mother who is alluded to being trapped in the well. Am I dumb? Are you talking about the well in the other world? Wait, there wasn't a well in the other world, was there? Because there wasn't a full yard in the other world. That could have... I don't not believe you, I just missed that. Because I've seen the movie several times, but I've never read the novella before. So there's definitely like stuff that I probably missed that I would maybe catch on a reread. Also, what's his name? The kid in the movie that's her friend with the coat and the I think he might have dreads. He's not in the novella at all, which I wasn't totally expecting. I can't think of his name right now, but I was surprised that he is purely a movie. Willie? I think he's got a different name. YB, I think is his name. That feels right. YB? Something like that? But no, but like, it's just the fact that he is purely a movie edition, I think is super fascinating. Because from what I understand, Gaiman was not super involved in the movie production beyond like the obvious stuff. So, I don't know. I'm sure they talked to him about adding the character, but the other fun facts. So Neil Gaiman, for anyone who does not know much about the man himself, was born in Hampshire, UK, and now lives in the United States up near Minneapolis, per his website. He was a self-described, quote, feral child who was raised in libraries. He actually credits librarians with fostering his, like, love of reading. Quote, I wouldn't be who I am without libraries. I was the sort of kid who devoured books, and my happiest times as a boy were when I persuaded my parents to drop me off at the local library on their way to work, and I spent the day there. I discovered that libraries actually want to help you. They taught me about interlibrary loans, end quote. So, I don't know. I just think it's really cute. I love that. I love that, like, young Neil Gaiman got dropped off at the library and just spent all day there, like, vibing with librarians and reading. Just brings me joy. I relate. I didn't go to the public library as much as a kid, but I was in our, like, school library constantly. So, he began his writing career as a journalist, which I actually did not know. I had no idea that Neil Gaiman was a journalist before he was an author. And of course, as far as notable works, you have Sandman, Good Omens, Coraline, American Gods, The Graveyard Book. Neil Gaiman has written a lot of things. I am not reading off every single thing that this man has been involved in. He's done graphic novel, comic stuff. He's done novels. He's done film work. I just don't want to list all of them. I don't need to. Neil Gaiman's like famous as shit. Something that I think is fucking hilarious is that he wrote Coraline to write a children's book for his daughter, who was 5 at the time. And then he says that he wanted it to be refreshingly creepy. She's 5! The man writes like his life depends on it. Dude, for some people, it does. But even though, so he started it when his older daughter, Holly was 5. But I think his family moved, and there were several life circumstances that happened, and it took him, I want to say, close to a decade or a little bit over a decade to actually finish Coraline. And by then, his eldest daughter, Holly, was, I think, probably 15 or 16, and he actually had another daughter who was about 5 or 6. So he started it for one daughter and kind of finished it for the other one. And of course, both his kids still got to read it, of course. Because, duh. And then I love this quote when he's talking about it. Because he says, quote, "It's the strangest book I've written. It took the longest time to write, and it's the book I'm proudest of," end quote. Which is just, I don't know. It feels like such a delightful way to talk about it. Like, it's weird, it took me forever, but it's a lot of fun and I really like it. I think it's such a good way to, like, talk about that stuff.
Ooh.
Thank you, Sentinel. No, I think it's a good way to, like, look at it, because the story is weird as shit, but, like, it is a lot of fun, and, like, I'm really glad that, like, he wrote it and put it out into the world so that we could be here to, you know, talk about it. So, that is most of what I have to say about Coraline personally. Others that write for their kids put so much love into their work. Oh, yeah. And I think it means a lot that he started it for one kid and then kind of finished it for another, because then in a way he's writing it for both of his children. And I think that both gives you motivation to work on it and also, like, makes you want it to be good so badly. Which is so much pressure as a writer, by the way, to want something to be good. Just writing and not caring if it's garbage is easy. It's hard to write something and care if it reads well. No, that's a lot of my notes. I know you said you've read the story a lot. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, fun facts, or just thoughts about the story. Otherwise, same with you, Swift, because I know you are a Neil Gaiman fan. And Sentinel, if you pulled up Spark Notes, if you also have something to contribute. But no, this is definitely, like, it's so interesting when I read a story where I kind of know what happens. Because on one hand, like, I know what happens. I know the story of Coraline. But there were a few things that still, like, are different or are, like, surprising. So, like, a really good example on the wiki here. In the book, the other mother uses an army of rats to spy on the human world. But in the film, she has a group of kangaroo mice employed by the man upstairs, who I believe is Mr. Bobo. They call him Mr. Bobo in the novel. I think they give him a full name in the movie. Mr. Bobinski, but I think the neighbor ladies just call him Mr. Bobo in the novel, which I think is fucking delightful. I've owned 3 copies. Oh, I love that, though. I love that you read the story enough and that you love the story enough that the books fell apart. I bought the ebook for this one, so I don't have a physical copy of Coraline, but that's okay. So that's another one. So yes, so in the book, while making the deal to find Coraline's parents and the souls of the children, the other mother, so when Coraline makes the deal with the other mother, she makes her swear, and she ends up swearing on her right hand. But at first, she first swears on her mother's grave, and she makes a really dark joke about, like, oh, I put her there myself, and when she tried to get out, I put her back in. So, if that's I assume that's the grandmother reference you were talking about, Aya, the other grandmother. And it's kind of, I don't super know if that indicates if she has a human bit or has, like, biological origins. They really don't, like, get into it past that. And this is never, like, mentioned in the film. I think in the film, they actually look like Coraline's actually not looking for the kids' souls. She's looking for their eyes that are, like, small spherical objects. So, like, it ends up being a thing where she's looking for, like, small spherical objects either way, but it's their eyes instead of their souls. And then in the book, none of the ghost children are linked to Coraline at all. Like, one of them is literally a fairy, and the other 2 are children that are kind of out of time. Like, they were stolen a long time ago. In the movie, One of the victims was the twin sister of Miss Lovett, whose grandson is Wybie. I was right about his name. Coraline's frenemy and eventual friend. So Wybie's grandmother was stolen away by the other mother in the film, which is an addition that is not in the book because Wybie's not in the book. So how would it come up? The doll that Coraline has in the film is also not in the book at all, which I kind of forgot about until several days after I had read it. So, oh no, I don't want an appearance. She's so fucking creepy in the movie, dude. The themes are so tough for a story for children. You have to look out for yourself. Things that seem fun can be decidedly not so. Yeah, really. Yeah, you both have, like, the theme of you should appreciate what you have for what it is. And also you have the theme of watch your back because the world is not safe. And, like, don't get me wrong. He's not wrong. But that's also, like, a terrifying prospect, right? Like, hello? Hello? The story also does super empower Coraline. Yeah, like, there are a few moments where I think Coraline believes herself to be powerless or kind of is powerless, particularly when she's behind the mirror. But, like, her determination to find a way on top of the story kind of encouraging her to do so, right? Like, there's the cat who is kind of helping her figure out, like, what she should be doing and where she should be going. As far as, like, setting... Shut up, computer. Like, doing the challenge for the kids' souls and trying to, like, win a game to try to get back. Like, realistically, there are definitely moments where, like, I think it would not be crazy for Coraline to give up and be helpless, and she doesn't, and the story encourages her to not do that. So, I don't know. I ended up, like, it's one of those things where, like, I didn't expect to not like Coraline as a character. I figured I would. I'm still kind of delighted to be correct. Just because sure, I think she's great. So let's see if I can find any more differences between the movie and the Coraline movie versus book. Also, I love that the interview that I read from Neil Gaiman was when the movie was in production, which I think is really delightful. Oh. Oh, I didn't even catch that. So in the novella is in England. The characters, like, eat salt tabby and talk about going down to shops. And in the movie, they live in Oregon. I didn't even catch that they were in a different place. Yeah, that's right, because in the movie, only the downstairs neighbors are British or English. Everyone else is American. As opposed to in the novel. Let's see. Yes, there's no Wybie. There's no doll. We did talk about that briefly. Dolls were invented entirely for the film, and they're a welcome addition. No, the dolls are really cool. Yeah, Wybie's just literally not in the film. That explains the fairy a bit more. Oh, it being originally in England, you mean? Yeah, I could see that. Coraline's personality is something that they've listed here, where, like, Coraline is pragmatic in the book, where she's pretty feisty in the movie, but like she's not feisty in the books. It's just a different kind. Like, she's very sensible and practical and independent, which, like, they've said that here, which is very correct. I think what they're looking for is that Coraline's a little bit meaner in the movie. Like, she literally calls Wybie, "Why were you born?" She's quite mean. Which I think is hilarious, because it's a movie, but, like, also you don't say that to people. So this is what I was kind of looking for that wasn't here. Sorry, I know y'all can't see this webpage. We spend a bit more time in the other world before it becomes creepy in the movie than we do in the book. In the book, stuff starts happening really early. Like, Coraline gets suspicious pretty quickly. She goes along with the other mother, like, early on, but she very quickly is like, yo, what the fuck is this? Like, a really, really good example is, like, in the movie, the other father sings Coraline a song. In the movie, we actually see I think in the movie they're kangaroo mice and not regular, or they're not rats. And we said that earlier. But she actually gets to see the mice perform. She does not see that in the book. That is not, or in the novella, that's not a thing. In the movie, there's like the train that helps like serve her. There is a garden, but it's not like shaped like Coraline's head like it is in the movie. Like, that's definitely a visual that got added for the film, which is cool. Yeah, there's the Wybie not being in the novella is such a big deal that he's 2 different points on this article. It's like, hey, he's not in this. And then in the book, she knows and she sets a trap for the hand. Meanwhile, in the movie, Wybie actually helps her get rid of the hand that follows her into the real world. Hello, Leaf. I fucking love that Wybie's absence is so, like, felt. That it's listed twice. That makes me happy. That's so good. Hold on. Let me answer this super quick. Sorry, I just got texted really exciting news and I need to, like, not emote on stream because y'all have no context for what I'm excited about. It's fine. Everything's fine. But no, I think it's fascinating because I think they do such a good job in the film of, like, translating so much of the book in a way that is, like, not quite as fucking terrifying for children, but it's still, like, definitely very creepy and, like, weird. I think as fucked as it would be, I would actually really, really like to see the weird scene in the cellar animated, especially in that style. It would be so good. It would be horrifying, but it would be so good. I'm just seeing if there's any Wyborn or Wybie. Yes. Yeah, so that's a good point. The person who wrote this article from book to film, Coraline, their name is Elizabeth Maricola, makes a really good point of a pretty alright part of the book is inner monologue via Coraline because she's, like, thinking her way through everything. And that can be really hard to convey in a film. So giving her Wybie kind of gives her someone to talk to and have that dialogue with, so it's not all up here. Also, you'd have to... Somebody will have to double check me on this. I'm almost positive that Coraline's coat in the book is not a yellow rain jacket. I'm pretty sure it's like a brown coat. Let's see. Yeah, so that's the other... Yeah, this is kind of what I was saying earlier. Is, like, Coraline's a little more, like, vocal and obnoxious and, like, kind of a little bit meaner. In the book, she's a well-behaved kid. She's just really, like, pragmatic and bored. So... And of course, they did Coraline in stop motion with clay, which means they can make the faces as fucked and distorted as they want, which is incredible, and I love that, but also holy shit. But yeah, no, so there's a few extra, like, differences between the novella and the movie. But no, I would love to hear, like, other thoughts that we have now that I've kind of given a plot rundown. If there's people chilling tonight who haven't read it and want, like, clarifying questions, you can also ask that. I'm gonna take, like, 2 minutes to stretch my legs. I know we're at 10:30. I need to stand up. So I will literally be, like, right back. Yeah, I'm back. I'm just still standing, so I haven't looked at the camera yet. Guys, on top. Oh. Get my blanket situated here. Do I need a blanket every time I stream? No. Do I have one almost every time I stream? Yes. This is who I am as a person. Hello again. Also, for those that did not see in Discord, look at this lad. Here, I'll go to the just me so you can really see him. He does have the sound, so when I click his hand, I don't know if y'all can hear. Y'all can't really catch it, I don't think, but he makes like sounds. It's a big boy he is. He's like a foot tall, I think. And he's like almost the width of my torso, which I think is fucking hilarious. I love him a lot. He's like the perfect cuddle size. Target has one that's 24 inches that I also really, really want. And it's testing my impulse control. Because I love him. There was a while I couldn't find like any good Gengar plushes hardly, so now the fact that I'm finding any, I'm like fucking delighted. So if you see me like cuddling a purple thing, it's probably him. Alright, let me go back to the book club menu. I've been talking so much, oh my god, I'm like out of breath. I'm very used to like talking for a whole stream by myself, but I'm not used to talking like uninterrupted so much. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I was just checking something on my computer. Oh, listen, as far as like, I don't know, I guess we'll just start like closing thoughts since it's like 10:30. Or actually let me, oh my god, phone please. Phone. I'm gonna need my, I'm gonna need Discord to not like plague my phone with notifications because I stopped paying attention to it. Let's see. Also, I love this vibe music. But no, so closing thoughts, or, you know, ending thoughts, whatever you want to call it. It's so interesting to me to read something that you've grown up watching the movie too. This is kind of the same thing that I experienced when I watched Jurassic Park and then read Jurassic Park, where they're quite good reads on their own. The twists and turns don't have as much of a sting because, you know, you grew up watching the film. You know that the plot of Jurassic Park is dinosaurs. You know that the twist of Coraline is that the other mother is like fucking evil. Like, neither of these are like really crazy revelations when you've grown up watching the films. But I think one of the bigger compliments that I can pay to Coraline is how much I enjoyed it regardless of knowing the basic plot. Like, I ripped through it because it's a novella, it's not very long. But it's really fun. Like, I really liked picking out the differences between the film and the movie, like noticing what was there and what wasn't there. Like, the cat came in and I got really excited. Like, the eternal performance is, like, kind of wild to read about. Like, having those sorts of differences are really fun. Knowing that the other mother doesn't transform as much in the book, but just is consistently kind of fucking weird, versus in the movie, where she really starts looking like Coraline's mother and then transforms into this like spindly weird thing. And kind of having all of that like rattling in my brain as I'm reading the book is like, I don't know, I had a lot of fun with it. And then it was such a like pleasant surprise to find stuff that I didn't know about. Like, I don't think they address the empty flat at all in the film. Or at least if they do, I don't remember. Beyond, like, you know, the brick wall, of course. But, like, you know. It was such an enjoyable read despite knowing so much of the plot. And I think, like, that's a huge compliment, personally. Because how good is it if I can read something that I know the plot of and like still enjoy it? I don't know. I think that's the other reason that I like it being a novella and it doesn't like overstay its welcome. Part of my thing with Jurassic Park is the beginning is a little hard to read if you know that the plot is dinosaurs. Because, like, the mystery is gone. Like, the beginning of the book relies so much on mystery and secrecy that's just not there if you know that the plot is dinosaurs. So, but Coraline does a really good job of, like, you can know that something is wrong from the outset, and it doesn't necessarily tell you that you're wrong, but it, like, slowly reveals to you that you're correct, which I think is really cool. So, no, like, that's probably the biggest compliment that I can give the novella, is that, like, it was such a fun read, regardless of whether or not I know the plot. And I think that says a lot about Neil Gaiman. Not that I ever thought Neil Gaiman was a bad writer. That's not a take that I've ever had. But I haven't read a ton of his work. I need to go read Good Omens, actually. But like, I think that's a lot of, I don't know. I had so much fun with it. I'm like running out of words here. I'm like slightly brain dead from rambling for a couple hours. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a ton of fun. It did not take very long to read, which is kind of nice sometimes, even as someone who likes bigger books. It kept me engaged despite like knowing most of the plot already. The way he describes stuff is so fun and interesting. I genuinely would say that the book is worth a read. And like, don't get me wrong, I spoiled most of it for you. Sorry. But there are details that I missed. There are little bits that really, really make it so memorable that I have forgotten or just melded so far into the world that I didn't mention them. I don't know. I think being able to have like some detail like that and then also have it be short and simple is just delightful, personally. So I can breathe. There's air in my lungs. We're fine. Here we go. I'm so glad I have that drink here. I think I would die. But yeah. Also, just as a quick, I really appreciate everyone who comes out to book club. I know book club is a little different from, like, our quote-unquote, like, regularly scheduled content. But book club is kind of one of my favorite things to do on the stream. Just in general. I really love it. I really love doing book club. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. It's so much fun. I really just, I don't know. I have so much fun with it. And I really appreciate everyone who comes in and contributes. Or even just, like, the people who come in and lurk. Because I know, like, I know Mac wanted to come, but he had an engagement that he couldn't get away from. But, like, he was reading Coraline anyway. Which reminds me, can I get a mod to put in notes chat? To throw it in our notes chat? To start a thread under book club so that people can talk about Coraline post the stream. Because I know there were a couple people reading Coraline that couldn't make it to the actual stream. Or, like, maybe wanted to discuss it, but, like, just literally could not get here for, like, the actual time slot. So, please and thank you. But no, like, I don't know. I love book club. I really, like, genuinely with all of my heart, it makes me really happy when people enjoy book club. So, like, I'm really glad. I'm really not exaggerating when I say that book club's one of my favorite things that I do on the channel. Like, it's not the regularly scheduled content. It's only once a month. We took a month off, blah, blah, blah. But it's so fun for me. I just get to talk about books with, like, people who want to come hang, and they can lurk or they can chat, and it's so much fun that way. I also like part of the reason I do it the way that I do it is so that it's like low-key, because I know some people aren't big like book readers, but like still like to listen to people talk about media. So it's like, I'm not gonna make it so that you have to have read the book to come and participate. Book Club 3 was a while ago. Book Club 3 was the Poppy War. We took September off is what happened, for those that were not around for that. We did a book club in August, but we took September off because I had an inordinate amount of shit going. I'm not even kidding. When I tell y'all, I have not had a proper break in like a month and a half, almost 2 months. I really, really mean it. It's so unfortunate. But we took September off, just because I had too much going on. Like, I had 2 weddings to go to, it's just there was too much happening. So I'm really happy to be back to book club, I guess is what I'm getting at with that one. Like, I really like book club. I'm going to crash after next weekend. Yeah, we're doing some stuff this weekend, so I don't super get to crash. I get to crash a little bit next weekend. I have an obligation, like, mid-morning Saturday. But then after that, I can kind of chill out, I think. Excuse me. So. Also, don't forget, Halloween stream is gonna be fun and spooky. The wedding and a concert. Wait, is the wedding and the concert on the same day? Because if so, no. Hate that. Good luck, but no. But no, all that to say, like, I know I get really, like, rambly sometimes, particularly in book club, but I'm glad that y'all, for the ones that enjoy book club, I'm glad you enjoy it as much as you do. For those who maybe don't vibe with book club specifically, but just like having me up in the background rambling about whatever, I really appreciate that too, in like a totally different but equally as important way. I don't know. It's just cool. I like hanging out with you guys, and I like talking about stuff that I like. So, it just makes it more fun for me. And then it makes reading like an interactive experience, which is neat. Also, I know y'all already killed the fucking community night goal. I gotta start raising those more. Because, Lord almighty. I will get that scheduled, I just don't know when yet. I gotta calendar some stuff, especially since we're getting into, the holiday time of year, which is awful, personally, but it'll be what it is. We might do Thanks again this year. I don't know yet. It depends on what's going on with it. The wedding is at 3 p.m. The concert doors open at 7 and then goes to 1 a.m. Dad thinks I'm gonna crash instead of doing both. In your dad's defense, I don't think that's a crazy assumption. I hope you're able to do both because the concert sounds really fun, but like I won't be that shocked if you like can't do both because that's a lot. But I know it's only 10:45. I think we are gonna start looking for people to raid just to save my voice a little bit because I have been talking for several hours. My throat does hurt a teensy bit. So I'm gonna give y'all 3 minutes on this poll since we're a little bit more chill tonight. Give y'all a little bit more time. Give those who are lurking time to get in. Who they want. Is there anything in the upcoming? So I have a date picked, I believe. So I'll do official promo once everything is finalized. Right now I'm looking at November 18th and I have 3 books that I am choosing between. There is Iron Widow, Truth and Other Lies, a Loki Norse fantasy, which is actually part of a series. And then Where the Crawdads Sing is popular right now, and it looks interesting. I know they made a film about it. So I'm looking at a few different books as possibilities. I just haven't actually like settled on one. If those particularly appeal to you guys, we can possibly do a vote like we did with this month. So let me know. Let's see. So as far as rating goes, the One True Classy is live, and he is playing Stardew Valley. We have Knife Bun, who's doing a music stream. That might actually be it. Yeah, we'll just do it between those two, I think. Y'all have a whole 3 minutes this time. I made it a little bit longer. So, but yeah, no. I have a date more or less set. I just want to make sure that there's nothing, like, in the way of it. Namely because I don't want to make promo and then have to reschedule it because that's annoying and I don't want to do that. So we've got, I think I have a weekend picked. I'm just trying to navigate around Thanksgiving because that has crept up on me so hard. I was literally talking to my mom today and she's like, she mentioned Thanksgiving and I was like, oh shit. Because I forget. I really do. I get so caught up in what I'm doing in the next like couple of weeks, I totally blank and don't like retain the knowledge that Thanksgiving is coming. The end of the year is coming really fast, and I'm really upset about it. Goodness. Oh my god, I've talked so much. So yes, there's absolutely stuff coming in the works for book club. I honestly meant to have a book picked by today, but something broke at work. And I've been trying to fix that, and it's not fixed, but it be that way sometimes. So, I don't... because a lot of times I'll, like, look into stuff like that during, like, a break at work or something. Because I'm sitting at my desk, and I might as well. But then when stuff breaks, I kind of, like, lose some of that prep time that I would normally have. Let's see.
Because
I went to click on the stream and it's like, hey, you want sound? I'm like, not particularly at the moment, thank you. Because I want to make sure. Ugh, Starry's so cute. I know the poll's technically not over, but we're 2-0 for classy, so I figured I would get that pulled up. But no. All that to say, more book club is coming, because I like it a lot, and I'm really glad you guys do too. It makes it way more fun for me when you guys are into it. Hopefully, we will have our lovely guest back next time. And offline things will not derail us at the last minute. But obviously, no shade to her at all. It happens. It's for such a good reason, so it's fine. Y'all know I can talk for forever. That's not a problem. Classy has won. At least your work doesn't ask if you can bedazzle a costume in a saddle as a kid thinks it's super easy. Lol, that's funny. No, I don't do that. However, counterpoint. I work with online things, which means I get to deal with the general public via the internet. And people are really insufferable via the internet sometimes, speaking as both a streamer and someone who works with the internet for her day job. But no. So I know we're ultimately ending about 10 minutes early, but I don't want to, like, just ramble into the void when I've said most of what I want to say. Post the stream, I am going to put a thread in book club in the Discord, so that whoever wants to talk about Coraline can go nuts. I know Mac particularly wanted to talk about it, and that way if Lottie wants to come in, post everything she's doing right now, and chat about the book. I know she really loves Coraline, so that would give her an opportunity to do so as well. I think she's in the Discord server. I'll let her know, but... Is that because the vlog backlog being huge? What do you mean? Because... Oh, you mean why she's not here? No. Her stuff has nothing to do with me. She had, like, actual, like, offline IRL stuff to do. So, I need to catch up on update on putting up VODs, but that has more to do with me reteaching myself some video editing and time than anything else. It has nothing to do with anything else, because I'm the only one that edits stuff. Which is why stuff doesn't get edited super hard, because, oof, time. We do have a couple episodes of Kingdom Hearts stuff back on the channel now. I think we're up to episode 13 of the Rechain of Memory series. Should be on YouTube or is coming to YouTube. I might be lying about what's actually out. Please hold so I can make sure I'm not lying to you. So episode 12 went up 10 hours ago. Yes, that's correct, actually. And then episode 13 should be on YouTube on Monday, I think. Because I try to make it easy for y'all to remember. So if y'all want to look for it, if there's a new VOD, it will most likely be on a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Friday, because then it lines up with stream schedules. There's a chance that I will change it because I don't fucking know. Maybe I'll decide a different strategy's better. But for now, my brain is fried. Sorry, I'm making tea. It should help if Uncle Iroh's taught me anything. No, you're good. You've also got a busy weekend ahead of you, so like I totally get it. But no, Lottie not being here just has to do with stuff going on in her life, but it's good things. So just happen to have a schedule clash, and it didn't come up until earlier today. So no big deal. I'm very happy that she's getting to do what she's doing, and I'm very happy that I get to do what I'm doing, because I like hanging out with y'all. It's been a lot of fun. So, could I get one of my lovely mods in chat to do the social media links in the raid command while I start the raid? So we are going to be raiding One True Classy. We have raided him before. He is doing some Stardew. He's looking to finish his community center, so that would be super fun and funky and exciting. I do ask, I totally understand if y'all need to dip, especially for those of you who've been hanging around for a while. I would love for y'all to hang out through the raid if you can. Thank you, Swift. If you need the socials, the Discord, or if you want to catch up on some of the YouTubes that you missed some of the Kingdom Hearts stuff, that's really the place to go. I really genuinely recommend the It Takes Two stream that I did with Bravo Becca. That stream is fucking incredible. So funny. We shitpost the entire time. As far as the raid goes, if you don't have a sub, you can grab these rainbow hearts here. Or if you do have a sub, Stream Elements doesn't, so this is going to look a little weird. But you can just copy and paste that, and it will come up properly when you paste it. Excuse me. And as always, if you want italics, just make sure you grab the /me, and it should grab everything for you. So I am going to hit that see you later screen. And we'll be back on Monday with more Little Nightmares 2. Hopefully I can beat that game before Halloween. See. But I'll see you on Monday. I hope you enjoyed this book club. Make sure you keep an eye on the Discord for the next one. Okay, bye!